Hello and welcome to the MBOM podcast, where you will learn to master the business of yoga with guests from around the world who have experienced becoming successful yoga teachers, studio owners, and much more. Now, here's your host, Amanda Kingsmith.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the MBOM podcast. I'm super excited for today's episode of the podcast because we're talking about online courses. And online courses are becoming more and more popular in the yoga sphere for yoga teachers to offer things like private lessons, things on business, and information on social media or design. I know that I just purchased recently Danielle Joseph's online course. I know Kate Canal Potts has an awesome one. And it's this really, really amazing way in 2017 when we're able to attract an audience that's so far out of our geographic sphere. We can connect with people all over the world. And so I got really interested in online courses last year. I decided to make my first online course in beginner's yoga. And I kind of went through the thought process of, what do I know about? What am I an expert in? And I was like, well, I'm a yoga teacher. I'm super passionate about that. I want to be teaching more. This is a great way to get experience, to connect with people, and share my offerings all over the world. And I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it actually was. There's so much outside of just the actual teaching that you have to learn. There's the camera and the audio and the lighting, and then actually putting together videos and everything else that needs to go with it. And then getting it approved on a platform if you're using a marketplace like Udemy or Skillshare. And then from there, there's the whole marketing element of it. So it was surprisingly challenging for me. But along the way, I connected with Lauren Lapointe, and Lauren had released a home practice yoga course on Udemy around the same time that I released my first course. And I've watched her with her course creation. She's now released 4 courses. She's been very successful on Udemy as well as with her courses on Skillshare. And so I've wanted to have her on the podcast for a while. I've just been watching her on Facebook, watching her success, and I felt like this was a really great time to talk to her because my boyfriend Ryan and I decided to create another new course called Yoga for Men. And if you're on my mailing list, you got a promo code and an email about this a couple weeks ago at the very beginning of April. And so for the rest of you who aren't on the mailing list, now is the time that I'm sharing with you. But we released a course called Yoga for Men. And the idea around that was that a lot of times men who are new to yoga or men who have really tight, stiff bodies come into a class and are not able to do all of the poses or the postures. And it can be a really uncomfortable experience for a lot of men. So we created this course. It's taught by me. It's demonstrated by my boyfriends. And it's to show the modifications for the male body for the most popular poses or the most common poses you'd see in a yoga class. And so there'll be a link on the show notes at mbomyoga.com to get the promo code. But the promo code for MBOM listeners is MBOM25. It's to get the course for $25, which is a really awesome deal. And if you're a man who's tight, if you're a person who just wants to check out what I did as a course, or if you've got a tight dude in your life who you really want to come to yoga with you, definitely send them that course. And so we'll dig into the episode pretty quick here. Like I said before, I'm really excited to be talking with Lauren. She gives a lot of really practical tips and tricks and pieces of advice for those of you who are looking to create a course. And we talk about the difference between the different marketplaces, how to make your decision, what research to go about, and just some considerations that I didn't even make before I started course creation. So without further ado, here's Lauren. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, Lauren. It's awesome to have you here.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
You're joining me from Savannah, Georgia.
I am, yes.
Oh, I love Savannah. Savannah is one of my favorite places in the U.S.
Well, I love Bali, where you are currently. So I've never been. I just want to be there.
It's pretty beautiful here. It's any rainy season, so I've spent a lot of time in a bright green poncho, but no complaints other than that.
Right. I'm sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to be chatting with you today about online courses. It's something that I want to get more into and something that I've kind of struggled with in the past.
Yeah, right.
I would love to know where you first, like when you first decided to start an online course, like what inspired you to first do that?
I think the idea came to me when I was training to be a creativity coach, and a lot of people were talking about ways to kind of get your name out there as a creativity coach. And so online courses came up, and probably around the same time I started to become aware of courses like from a student's perspective. So I started signing up for all these online courses. I'm a bit of an online course junkie. That's actually a term. There are people like that. And I definitely fall into that. But yeah, I just became aware of that world at the same time that I became aware that I should probably put some courses out there. So the two went together, pretty well.
Yeah. And what did you start with? Like, what was the first course that you created?
The first class was 21 Days to Creativity, a creativity course, since I was coming from the creativity coaching background. And they say there's a rule out there. So if anybody's listening and wondering about making classes, because everybody says that you shouldn't, for your first online class, you shouldn't make it your big class, something that, you like make it really long and involved and put everything into it, because your first class is your learning experience. And I, of course, said, no, I really feel passionate about doing this course. And I'm very proud of the end result, but I have to say I probably had to re-record videos so many times. It took me so long because I didn't heed the advice. So I always tell people right off, start with something small, something that you know really well, that's very manageable. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of wish that I would have done that as well. Cause I was like, I'm going to teach yoga when I have no space to do that. And I'm going to do it without a lapel mic.
Right. That's ambitious. I know I thought about actually demonstrating poses, and I was like, oh, that's too, I can't get into all that, the lighting and the microphone. And,
It's so challenging. I really don't recommend it unless you have a proper camera and a proper microphone, like a lapel mic.
Right.
It's voiceover. So it's scripting voiceover, playing the voiceover to practice to, and then editing that audio so it works. And I'm like, this didn't even turn out great. It's not bad, but it's not great.
Well, I saw your class. I thought it was fabulous. But
thank you.
I know the first course is always the learning experience one, and where you're learning about microphones and how to use them and how to get the right sound and how to get the right lighting and video. So yeah, definitely taking on a smaller, more manageable project is good to start out.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice. And what inspired you to start on Udemy?
I think just because I had stumbled across it as a student, and I'm trying to think how I first got into it through a writing class. I think I was just Googling online for an online writing class, and I found one on Udemy, and then I started getting all these emails for all these sales, and then the online course addiction began.
Yeah, you can get courses for such reasonable rates on Udemy, which is so great.
Mm-hmm. And all these interesting topics. I mean, there's courses on everything. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your experience like as an instructor versus a student with Udemy?
Well, that's a completely different thing, but again, I always tell people if they want to make online courses, be a student first, because I think that really prepares you for making a course, because then you know what you like, what you don't like, you have an idea of how it works. So I sort of had a sense for what style of teaching I liked, and, because there's talking heads where you just see the person talking, and, some people really use a lot of that. Some people don't use it at all. So I kind of had a sense going in as an instructor, what I liked and what I didn't like. But yeah, being an instructor, especially for your first course, you just have to get in there and learn all this stuff. But then you want to make a lot of courses after that, because then you have all that knowledge, because you're like, well, I learned all of this. I might as well just keep making classes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the way to really be successful on a platform like Udemy too, because, you kind of have to, do you have to opt into their promotional?
No, you can choose not to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've chosen to. And so sometimes I look at the money I'm making. I'm like, why am I not making very much money off of this? And I'm like, oh, right. Because they've completely discounted my course, and I only get a cut of that because Udemy takes them, which is definitely the frustrating part. in my opinion.
And there are a lot of
instructor.
affiliates too. So by the time, you're like, oh, I made $1 off this course or, whatever, because the affiliates, when they get involved, then it's even less. I mean, it's good to have them because then more people are seeing your course and buying it, but you earn less for each one. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So were you inspired to create more than one course because you wanted to gain like your student base, or was it like kind of just like, okay, I did this first one. Now I really want to like create these other ones?
I think it was because, I started out wanting to expand on my creativity coaching. And I think what happens quite a bit is you get the online teaching bug. You just see people jump right in and start making all these classes. And yeah, definitely when learning all that technology was such a learning curve for me. I mean, that's why I tell people if I can do it, like anybody can make an online class because I just sat there and I would watch Udemy courses on every different aspect. I spent so much on courses just to make my course so that I could learn all the info. You can also get the stuff on YouTube and there's other, resources online too. But yeah, I think, I just kind of got the bug and then I had the resources and I had a bunch of topics that I really wanted to share because I'm one of those people where I like to do different things. I'm a creativity coach. I'm a musician. I'm a yoga teacher. And so I have all these different interests and I'm always trying to figure out how to put them all together. And so, it was a really good opportunity for me to put this info in one place and then put these classes. So that's why I did a class in yoga. I did one in meditation. I did one in creativity and I did one in songwriting. So I was able to kind of get the different interests out there.
Yeah, no, I love that. I've kind of thought about how it's such a great way to, if you're learning something new or if there's something you feel like really passionate about sharing, is like just turn it into a course.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's how it was for me because I taught yoga quite a bit for 6 years. I'm a 500-hour yoga teacher, and but then I just reached a point in my life where I had to make some decisions, and so I'm not actively teaching weekly classes right now. And but I have this information that I want to share, so that's making online classes is definitely a way to share this information. The class I actually ended up putting on Udemy was based on a workshop that I did. It was a very specialized topic. It was, I know you thought, but how to start your own home yoga practice. And I created that because I had a lot of students who wanted to know how to go from just taking classes to transitioning into a home practice. And so I created this workshop and I kind of was like, well, I have this info and I know that it's kind of hard to find that info out there. There's a lot of different topics on yoga, but that particular one is hard to find. So I felt really good about sharing that in an online course. But what I learned from that, is that was probably a little too niche for an online marketplace like Udemy, because Udemy has this really worldwide reach with its students. I forget the breakdown, but a lot of people on there are, they're looking for, if they're looking for yoga classes, but probably more like how to do yoga, how to start doing yoga, how do I do poses. And this particular class, the target market for it would be either like yoga teacher trainers, people who are starting a YTT, a yoga teacher training. Those are usually the people who are really trying to get a home practice implemented. So that was a big learning experience for me. And something I'm glad I learned is that with very, very niche topics like that, it's probably better to to host them yourself. You can put them on your own website or there's different platforms out there that will do that, and then target those people, so that's what I should have done, but I didn't know it was a learning experience with that one particular class. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I kind of would have thought the opposite. Like, I know when I went through your course, I was like, damn, this is such a good idea. Like, why didn't I think of this instead of just doing like this generic yoga program that somebody could just go learn at a studio?
Your class is great, but that's who the market is. I didn't really have an understanding of, who's taking these classes on Udemy, and it's people, I would say from the yoga perspective, it's mostly people who just want to learn yoga. Oh, I want to learn yoga. So they would take the home yoga class and be like, there's no poses in here. Where are the poses? I want to learn downward dog and stuff. So that was my mistake, is not understanding the market. So I like to share that info with people so that they kind of have a sense for, how to, like, where to put your class to sell it and where it works and where it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's definitely really interesting because I think it is like a balance of finding like your niche, what you can kind of provide that's unique, but I guess not being like too niche that you exclude like a lot of people on Udemy, or maybe people, because they have like 30 days to return your course, I think. So it's like, you don't want them to come on and then return your course. And then, I mean, you get nothing out of it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I think in marketplaces like Udemy and Skillshare is probably the second largest. I've put some classes on there as well. Not yoga ones. I did a little meditation series, which was fun on Skillshare, but yeah, like Udemy, it's mostly like technology and business. And, there are some lifestyle courses that do well. There are some yoga classes that do well, but most of the student base are looking for hard skills, like how can I do this? I need to earn the skill and, or get this business skill to earn some money. So, I'm generalizing a bit, but I would say it kind of leans more towards that market. And Skillshare tends to be a lot of like arts and crafts, like here's how you embroider this, So it's more specific in that way. So it's kind of interesting to learn about what each of these different marketplaces can offer in terms of, target markets and client or customers and students and who you want to target.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious to know like what your experience was like between Udemy and Skillshare, because I've looked at Skillshare kind of from a distance as something like, oh, I wonder if there's anything I could offer on there.
Yeah, I went through a Skillshare phase, probably the latter part of 2016. Well, I think probably August, September through December, I focused on Skillshare. And again, I came to it as a student first. For me, I have to like understand something and love it. Like I have to get it as a student before I could teach on it. Not everybody does that. And there are successful teachers who haven't done the student route, but I think that just gives you an understanding. At first I didn't get it, but Skillshare is focused more on bite-sized classes. So they were doing, I say were because they just switched everything this month, but they were focused on, I know, so I'm saying this and this could be all change in a heartbeat, but they were focusing more on the smaller classes. So it was like 15 to 20 minute classes, like just one little nugget of thing that you really get across. So a lot of people were doing a series of things. But now they're encouraging people to do classes that are longer. So now we're starting to see classes that are more like an hour on Skillshare. So, and again, definitely arts, crafts types of classes are more popular on Skillshare. I actually don't know about the yoga. I can't say that I've seen a lot of it. I got some interest on the meditation, but it was mostly because there wasn't a lot of meditation on Skillshare. And I think, my flagship meditation class is on Udemy. So it's a one I'm so proud of that one. I made the meditation class that I would have liked when I was starting to meditate. But, cool. So I put it together. I think it's about 2 hours and it's called 10-minute meditations for less stress and more joy. So I want it to be really accessible, to get people to start with like 10 minutes. Okay, you can do that. But in Skillshare, I was able to take like one 10-minute meditation and put that in a class. And that's a lot more accessible for people. They're like, oh, rather than a longer, more in-depth thing, it's more of a commitment. So I learned that for something like meditation, that seems kind of daunting for people, that a smaller version works well.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's really
I know.
interesting.
I'm just learning all these different random facts about these marketplaces. But again, there's also a great option, which I'm now kind of transitioning into myself, of hosting courses yourself. Now, the issue with that is that you have to be able to drive traffic to them. So that's why the marketplaces are attractive, because you can build a following and there's people out there. But again, that really only works if the marketplaces have your audience and they can find your stuff. So for driving traffic to your own site, there are lots of different ways. One of the most popular ways that people are using now are Facebook ads. They're saying that's a really, really, really effective way to drive traffic. But I would recommend that you take, like anybody listening or who's interested, get some kind of training. There's a lot of classes and little hour-long things online that teach you how to do it. Because if you don't know what you're doing with Facebook ads, you'll just throw money away. There's a lot. Yeah. You have to really kind of hunker down and learn it. I'm in the process of it myself, so I can't speak to what to do, but hopefully I'll know soon. But
somebody needs to do a course on
all
that.
The time. Yeah. But apparently it's a very, very effective way to drive traffic. And then there's other, Instagram, is getting better and better for that kind of thing as well. Pinterest even can be a good one. All the social media, of course, but Facebook ads, I would say, is definitely the best one, but you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah. No, I've boosted posts before and I'm like, yoga teachers, ages here, North America, $3.
Yeah,
okay, go. Yeah. And then you see nothing happen for $3. My boyfriend's
no,
you're not doing this right.
I did that too. No, I did, exactly. So, and you're just kind of like, why isn't it working? But there's a whole art to it. There's a way that you have to write your headlines and do certain ads, and you create 5 ads at the same time and then test them to see which ones are working. And there's a whole thing with it, but it's very exciting. And so I think it's worth it. That's what I'm doing now, is learning about it. And I think it's worth to invest in that if people want to, drive traffic to their own site. And the advantage is that you can get people who are specifically interested in what you're offering.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No, that's great. And the other thing that I like about it too is that you don't have to split your profits with Udemy, which is, or Skillshare, which is a huge bonus.
Yeah.
When you get that customer, they really become kind of like your customer. What are you using as your back end platform for your own website?
I'm not right now because I haven't actually put them on my website yet. I'm in the process of, I'm getting my coaching pages and whatnot up. I'm probably going to use some sort of WordPress plugin. There are a few different ones that are recommended, and I'm just going to go through and see which one will work. But a lot of people will use sites like Thinkific. It's very popular. Teachable, Zenler. There's a whole bunch of them out there right now. So, and so I encourage people to just look at each one, see what they offer, and see kind of which one they click with. Cause they all have, slightly different features and advantages. So a lot of people will do that because they will host that you can put everything on there, and then you just, drive people to that page. They're not marketplaces, so they're not going to put your course in front of other people. You have to do all the marketing yourself, but they will host it all for you. So that's a good option too. I might do that or the WordPress plugin. We'll see how I do in my research.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much to learn with all of that. I found it so overwhelming. I think that's why I ended up going with Udemy, because I'd done a Photoshop course.
It's a good place to start. And the nice thing about Udemy is, they have really strict standards for lighting and sound. People complain about it, and it can be frustrating when you're starting out. You're like, oh, I thought my sound was great, and they didn't approve it. And I remember my first test video I submitted, and I thought my lighting was really good, but there was a slight shadow on the left side of my face, and they were like, no. So I had to go back and do it all again. And, I was really annoyed at the time, but now I'm so happy that I got that, because now I have, good quality video and audio, which, you can use for whatever you decide to do in the future for recording. It definitely gives you an advantage. So I do think that if people are interested in creating online courses, it's worth it to check out the marketplaces, and not worry so much about the get rich quick, which can happen, but it's more the, exception rather than the rule. But it can be really good experience just to learn how to put together a course, and do all the technical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you. I think that it's a good experience to go through. I had the same thing with my first test video, that they were like, your lighting's off, your audio is not good enough. And I was like,
right.
What do you want of me? Come on, people. Yeah. I was like, I'm new to this. And it's that's being new is not excusable. They give you all the resources you need.
Yeah.
Which I think is it is totally frustrating when you're I'm just trying to do this, and I thought I did it great, and then you have to restart all over again. But it's worth it a lot more when you've got good video later on.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You kind of mentioned earlier that you learned a lot about sort of the technical aspects of making videos. Can you talk a little bit about some of the main things that you learned about?
Okay. She laughs. Let's see. Well, audio is always a big one, finding out what kind of microphone. I mean, a lot of people will just record onto their laptops, which for, when that's fine for Facebook Live and things like that. But for online courses, you want to definitely get a microphone. And, you also want to do some kind of soundproofing. So I didn't think there was much echo in my room, but the slightest bit of echo on your voice can be really distracting. They actually say that audio is more important than the video quality in online courses. So that's why I started talking about that first. So, I resisted it at first as well. I was like, oh, and then what I did is I put up a bunch of those laundry drying racks around my desk, and I hung blankets and sleeping bags or whatever I could find. And I basically made like a blanket fort. It's kind of fun. My cats loved it. They hid in there for days. And that worked. I mean, that's what I've done for all my courses. Now, I just recently, my husband just made me a little box. He took a box and he made it, and we bought some soundproof foam, and we're going to stick the microphone inside that. So I actually haven't tried that yet, but I'm hoping that'll be a step up from the blanket fort. But if not, the blanket fort works. So anybody listening, just get out those blankets and put them around. You can really tell the difference. The people who bother and who don't bother, huge, huge, huge. And there's camera, of course. The easiest, I think, is actually a lot of people are using their phones now, which I haven't done, but I think, iPhones and whatnot can do really good quality. But I have a webcam that I use. What did you use for yours?
I used my iPhone.
Used your iPhone? See?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And now I have a GoPro, which I feel like takes better. The only thing with it is it creates like the fisheye video. But
oh yeah, right.
I don't really mind the fisheye video. I feel like it gives like better quality than my iPhone does.
Right. Okay.
But
were there any issues with syncing up the audio with the video?
So the biggest issue I actually had was that my iPhone didn't have enough space on it. So because I like scripted what I was going to say, and then I recorded it into GarageBand just using my microphone. Like I would just teach into it, and then I would play that off my computer, set up my iPhone, press record, and then go and do the demonstrations to that. But while I was doing the demonstrations, I couldn't tell if my iPhone was recording or not. So one time I recorded for like 2 hours, and I got like maybe 14 minutes of it. And I was like, I'm going to kill somebody. And then I found out.
I think it's like a rite of passage. There's at some point, it's going to happen where you do this wonderful recording, and at the end of it, you're like, oh, it didn't take.
Yeah, no, totally. So then I found out that you can plug your iPhone into your computer. Like, so I have a MacBook, so it'll sync up, and you can open QuickTime. And QuickTime will actually allow you to record directly to your computer. You just change it to iPhone. But I had to do this like massive MacBook update in order to be able to do that. And it took like, I don't know, like a good 24 hours for my MacBook to update because it's from 2012 and it like didn't want the new iOS system. And yeah, it was a really, really low time for me in my course production. I almost gave up, to be honest, because I was like, I feel like the universe is working against me. But I'm really stubborn. So I was like, I'm not going to let technology get in my way. I'm going to do this.
I think that, I honestly think that unless maybe there are a few lucky ones out there, but I think making your first online courses like that, and there's still stuff in the subsequent classes. It's just, and at that point you just go, oh, well, I should have known to do that or whatever. But the first one, you're off the hook with that. But yeah, it definitely it pushes you to that place where you're just like, yeah. I remember at the end of my first online course thinking, I think the big lesson here is how to react to it, how to deal with it, because it really puts you in that crazy place.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one day I got mad at my cat because I was frustrated with the technological stuff. And I was like, well, that's not right. My poor cat, and that's when I realized that I had to find, I'm teaching meditation and I'm like freaking out over, stuff not working. So
yeah. No, I had the same thing. I'm like, this is not very yoga-esque of me.
Right, exactly. Yeah. All the cussing that goes on behind the scenes when you're recording yoga and meditation courses.
Yeah. It is so frustrating though when you feel like you've kind of like leapt this big hurdle and then you just realized that like your video didn't work or your audio sucked or Udemy's like, nope, do it again.
Yeah. Sorry, all this hard work, that's a shadow.
Do you feel like after your first course, like having these learnings kind of behind you or like in your belt, I guess you could say, that it was a little bit easier to get the courses out?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The more you do it, it's, the more it comes. That's why there are some people who can churn out online courses really quickly. You've probably noticed there are some like that, and they just do it all the time. And honestly, if I wait a little bit of time between them, I lose some of it. So you definitely want to keep up on those skills. And, I have to write everything down. I have a bunch of Google Docs with a little folder so that I can remember all the different steps. Cause, there's all the editing and uploading and all that stuff that comes after too, and the marketing too. So, but it's a lot of work, but it's really rewarding. And, it just feels good to learn all this new stuff. Like I felt like some new things opened up in my brain.
Oh yeah.
Which probably needed to open up. So yeah.
Yeah. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
In terms of editing, like what types of software do you use?
I use ScreenFlow. I'm on a Mac as well. And so I love ScreenFlow that's where I do my recording and all my editing too. It's, last I checked, it was around 99, I believe, but for Mac users, it's fabulous.
Okay.
It's easy to use and you just know you're going to be able to do what you need to do.
Does it work sort of similar to Camtasia?
Yeah, but it's cheaper. Camtasia is great it's kind of the one that if you're on a PC that you want to use. Although they have a version for Mac as well, but ScreenFlow is made for Mac. So
okay.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. I've always just used Camtasia, and kind of gone through the 30-day trials. With them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, if you're in a Mac, definitely check out ScreenFlow. I love it.
Yeah, I had experience from a corporate job that I worked using Camtasia. We used to record presentations with events that we put on. And so I knew how to use Camtasia going into it.
Oh, that's an advantage. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then for your talking head videos, did you just record through your webcam right into ScreenFlow and do all your editing from there?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. That's handy.
Yeah. It's just the lighting. And it's funny, when I started off with the lighting, I went and I bought one of these big, I don't even remember what they're called, big lighting things, boxes. I can't remember. I don't remember. It was like one of these big things, that everybody says, oh, you need to get this. I was like, okay.
Is it like those white fabricated boxes?
Yeah. And so I got one of those because anyway, it was too much. It was too bright. Like it just washed me right out. I couldn't get it to look, it just looked terrible. So, somebody passed on the tip that you can get these little clamp lights. They're like $10. They just clamp onto stuff. It's just like a little tin thing with a dimmer.
Oh, that's great.
And I switched to that. I have two of them. They're actually permanently, I have them, you can't see them, I guess I'm pointing, but they're, right over my desk, and I just flip them on, adjust the dimmer to what I need, and I have my light.
That's
so that
great.
was like, probably $25 total with the dimmers for my lighting, and it was so much easier to use, worked so much better. I try to use natural light too. I have some windows near, so I try to record when it's light out. I haven't always been able to do that, but I try to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good piece of advice as well. It's nice to know that you can do it like pretty affordably because I think about, those lights that photographers use, like those big things, and I was like, I can't afford any of this.
Invest in it. Yeah, but I found it just too much. Like it was just way too intense for what I needed. And when the clamp lights worked just fine. So, and I've since invested in a backdrop. My first course, it's just me in my office. I kind of like that actually. I like seeing people sitting in their office with their stuff behind them. I find it interesting, but a lot of people don't. So I was like, well, let me try something else. And plus it was a lot to set up because like a picture frame kept glaring and I had to move this, move that. So it was a fair amount of work actually to get my backdrop so it looked right for the camera. So I bought a little backdrop and it was pretty inexpensive. It's called a photography backdrop. You can get them all from Amazon, whole bunch of different colors. And the only thing I don't like about it is I have to iron it. But so that's the hard part. So I'm actually trying to find one now that I don't have to iron, because that's, who needs to iron, right? So, but now I
don't even own an iron.
But then it's so much easier too, because I just put it up behind me, and I don't have to worry about all the stuff behind me. It makes it a lot easier to get the lights set up, and So,
did you just
I try to batch my recordings now. So if I know, if I'm going to be doing a bunch of talking head where I need the backdrop and the lights, so I'll plan that to do all of those in one day, and
that's such a good idea.
Slides, I have a little more flexibility with that.
Did you just get your backdrop like off Amazon, or where did you find? Yeah. Cool.
I just looked at Amazon for photography backgrounds, and there's a whole bunch of them. You can see different ones. I got a cloth one, that's why I have to iron it. They had a bunch of vinyl, but I was worried that the lights would reflect on a vinyl. I don't know if that is the case, but that was why I decided to go with the cloth ones. But I know a guy who went to Target and he got this really cool blanket, and he puts it behind him. You do want to be careful with backdrops. You want them to be kind of a solid color. You don't want to have a lot of patterns and things going on, because it can be really distracting. So, just a nice solid color behind you. And,
I probably should have done that as well. I feel like with online courses, it's really interesting because you can do a lot of research and like really prepare yourself. And I think things like still come up with that. But I feel like for me, I just like completely jumped in like head first, no idea what I was doing. Like, I'm just going to make this work and I'm going to make money off of it.
But you did. I mean, your course is great. And, it's just, I think certain, topics do better in marketplaces like Udemy than others. And, I don't know. I can't speak for the other yoga teachers who've worked on Udemy. But there are people like Sean Korn and Sadie Nardini who have courses on Udemy. So we're competing with, it's like, am I going to buy, Lauren's class or Sadie Nardini's class? Like, they're the same price. So
yeah. That's the thing that's kind of tough. It's interesting when you look up yoga, like Sean Korn's class always comes up in the top. And Ryan and I were just doing research to see if there's other like yoga for men's courses. And there's only 2 up there right now. And, we're just looking through like what other these like popular instructors are doing and kind of like doing our research. And he's like, he's not as into yoga as I am. I'm like, just don't even look at the Sean Korn class. Like, we're never going to compete with Sean Korn's classes. Like, I'm not Sean Korn.
That's like right after I put out my creativity class, and then Elizabeth Gilbert put up a class. I'm like, really? I was like, that's not fair. But of course I loved it and took it. But
she's fabulous. Big Magic. It's an amazing book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it is definitely hard when you see like these people who are kind of like dominating the industry, and like, especially if they're popular already in the industry, like somebody like Sean Korn is massively popular in the yoga industry. Right. Like, nobody's ever going to choose my beginner's yoga course over Sean Korn's course. And
she's got the name recognition. Yeah.
Right. And she's probably also got a film crew, which I don't have.
Right. Yeah. But, I definitely think there are advantages to putting stuff on the marketplaces, because you will get some students. I like to think of it as, because I see Udemy advertising the Sean Korn class quite a bit. It always comes up in my Facebook feed, for example. But that's drawing more yoga people who like yoga, to Udemy. So, after they take Sean Korn's class, they'll be like, okay, well, let me look for some other yoga classes. So, I like to think that it's just creating more abundance all around for all of us. So
yeah, definitely. And let's talk about marketing. I feel like marketing is a really interesting thing, especially with Udemy.
Marketing.
What did you do to market your courses? Like, what were some of your strategies?
I pretty much just posted on my personal Facebook page to my friends. And what did I do? It depended on the topic. The creativity one, I had some people who were coaching clients, so I had a list from that. And for my yoga and meditation, I sent that to my yoga list, and my songwriting I shared with my songwriting friends. But really, that kind of marketing is limiting. Like, I got a good response from friends and people who know me, but after a certain point, you've saturated that market. Your friends are all going to be like, okay, Lauren, we know you've got online classes.
Unfollow.
And that's, yeah, exactly. You're like, okay. So that's why it's, then the next step is, okay, well, I know there's a lot of people out there who would be interested in whatever the topic is that you're offering. So I kind of fumbled around trying to figure out how to do that. Like I heard, a lot of people were saying things like you need to get into Facebook groups on your topic and post things, but that felt a little spammy to me. Like I like to be in groups, but I don't want to be like, hey, I've got this course, and
yeah, I'm the same way. I feel like self-promoting constantly is like a little bit weird.
Yeah. And some people do it really well, but that's just not really, that just didn't feel right for me. So, I like to be very natural on Facebook. That's how that's a big part of my social life is Facebook. So I just, I try not to be too like, hey, buy this, I got this thing. So yeah, so that didn't work for, so much for me. But Facebook ads, now that I'm starting to learn and understand them, what that does is it targets like not your friends. So it's targeting people who are interested in, specifically what you're offering. So, and you can get very specific with it. So it's actually it's very exciting. There's a lot of potential there. And Instagram's another one I have my eye on. And basically what they say, cause there's so much out there, there's so much social media and there's all these different, we're always told them then you have to be blogging and podcasts, but I think what you need to do is pick one or two that you just like to do. Like you like to have a podcast. So that's already set. Like I like Facebook. That's my main social media. So that's a good place for me to explore. Like my husband loves LinkedIn. So if ever he was doing something, I'd be like, well, go on LinkedIn. That's where you like to do your things. So yeah. So I'd say, rather than overwhelm yourself and try to do 12, to learn 12 different social media platforms, I'd say maybe pick your top two and really learn them well, how you can advertise that is. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good piece of advice. I've heard that a number of different times. Like, when you try to spread yourself thin between Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, advertising on Facebook.
And Periscope and yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I downloaded Periscope like one time and played around with it for like a hot minute and was like, no, I can't do this. Like it's just too much on top of like everything else that's on my phone.
Go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's all these strategies for each of them. And I think that, you don't need to do it all. It's finding like what's going to work for you best. Did you find that once you had a couple courses, you could kind of like cross over students as well?
Yeah, you can market to them. So like on Udemy, each time I release a new class or course, they're called courses on Udemy. They're called classes on Skillshare. So I'm using the terms interchangeably. But when I would come up with a new course on Udemy, I would be able to send out an announcement to all of my students in the first course saying, okay, I have this second course. So you're able to get some sales that way and build from that. So
cool. Yeah.
Now,
that's awesome.
It's better if you stay in the same genre. Like I'm hopping all around in different topics. So it's not as much crossover. I think if you're staying in the same niche, it's a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've thought about that as well. Like, I think that I probably should have released a second course after my first course and not waited till like now to be creating a second course, like a year later. I feel like I was just so frustrated with Udemy at that point. I was just like, I can't do it. I'm not doing it right now. It's too hard.
Right. Well, it definitely takes a lot of, mental, physical energy. I mean, there's definitely commitment. Like you do have to go into a cave to get these courses done. And even, now that I've done 4 on Udemy and I can't remember how many I've done on Skillshare. I want to say like 8 or 9, but they're smaller ones, but it's still the same process,
Yeah.
But it's still a process. You still, if you want to do them right, like I want to put a certain amount of heart into each class I make, I want it to really feel good and have content. So, yeah, it's a process. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's something for people to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had it in my head that I was going to like do this thing that I love doing. Like I love teaching yoga. I love sharing yoga. And I was like, I'm just going to do this and put videos up and, the people will come and then I'm going to be rich. And almost a year later, I'm definitely not rich off of it.
I think most people feel that way with marketplaces. And honestly, I mean, because there's so much, publicity for the people who do that does happen. It can happen. But I think for most people it doesn't. And, there's some reasons for that. Like some people come in, they already have like a huge following, like, some of these famous people that we mentioned for yoga, for example, or just people who just have a big following already. That whatever the latest thing is, those topics are going to, be really popular and people are going to buy those. So, and like I said, business ones that will teach you, okay, you can make a lot of money if you take this course. Those sell really well.
Yeah, because people want to make money.
But most yoga classes are not like that.
Yeah, the thing I've thought about since releasing is like, okay, like, yeah, I guess this makes sense for like maybe some people who want to like learn yoga at home. But I mean, there's yoga teachers everywhere. There's yoga studios everywhere. There's like beginners yoga courses everywhere. Like it's kind of entering a market that's kind of already saturated, and then trying to do it online can be a little bit challenging. But then also finding something that you can teach people, I think. So finding that balance, because I feel like to just go out and just teach something that's like, I don't know how to make money, but maybe you don't actually know how to do that, is also like not a great strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some people do know. They teach it quite well.
Oh, totally. Great. Yeah. And they're the ones that are successful for sure.
Yeah.
I know a guy who's made, a ton of money off Udemy. He's like in a month, he's making like $7,000 or something like that.
Right.
And he has a bunch of different courses on, illustrating on the computer.
Right.
And I feel like that's
computer stuff does quite well.
Yeah. It's such an interesting skill. And I was like, well, of course you're making, so much more money than I am. Like you have this like really cool set of courses that's like so much more, it's more niche, but it's also more unique and something that you can't just like find in any city in the world.
Right. Right. But I do think too, like even if you're teaching in an area that's really saturated, one of the advantages of all these online courses now, like people can get to really connect with you. It's just like being a yoga teacher in person in a studio. I mean, people have lots of choices now usually for what classes they get to go to, but they connect with a certain teacher. So even though you're still teaching the same downward dog or whatever, they want to connect with you. So I do believe that everybody has a market online, but we might have to work a bit to find it. So a lot of people will not do, like, they'll put up a class that doesn't go well, and that's it. And that's okay. I mean, we don't all have to be successful at online stuff. But I just think that there's different places for us. Some people, it's the marketplaces. For some people, it's hosting it ourselves and driving traffic to our sites in different and creative ways. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's cool. It sounds like you've done so much research into it, which is something that I didn't do as much into. And I think that it's like really helpful to kind of understand the platform and like what people are kind of looking for out of the courses.
Yeah, it just kind of came with experience too, just staying with it for over the year. Like I said, I got the bug and I had these different topics that I wanted to kind of get out and put out there. So a year later I was like, oh, okay. But now, like I said, I'm really learning, some of these other methods of driving traffic to your own courses, which I think it works. It depends on the person and their style and the topic that they're teaching.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's great to hear. And so you have, like over 10,000 students now in your courses, which is so, so cool. Did you?
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you feel like you did anything specific to gain those students, or did that just happen really organically?
Yeah, I think mostly it happened organically. And, just by keeping the courses on Udemy and putting 4 up within a relatively short period of time. And the 2 classes that have probably, or courses, I guess, since it's Udemy, that have probably brought in the most number of students, definitely the creativity one, which is funny. That was my first one. And my songwriting one, but the yoga and meditation are kind of buried in there somewhere. And I identified with the yoga one what it was. It was too niche of a topic because I was offering something, again, the how to develop a home practice, which is something, it's like a particular stage for yoga teachers. Yeah. So that's something that's very, very particular. And the meditation one I thought was great, honestly. I was like, this class I'd say it's probably my best class out of the 4, and it just kind of got hidden. But there's a lot of meditation stuff out there, so maybe that's why. Or maybe I didn't put the right SEO topic in, the search engine optimization. I don't really know anything about that. Some people are really, really good at that. And I think with some courses, I just happened upon the right keywords. And some I didn't. So yeah, you can really spend a lot of time researching that stuff, and that will help your courses tremendously.
Yeah.
I just didn't do that.
Yeah. I like kind of understand SEO. Like I think my knowledge is basic. Very basic.
Right. Like just put a word that a lot of people will search for, and your course will come up. So
right. Yeah, I worked a summer internship where like we had all the software and we'd like put in the software and we were looking for like certain like words that had like certain amounts that were searched, because you don't want to be like too searchable, because then if you're small, you'll be hidden, but you don't want to be like not searched at all, because then it won't be found either. And I was like, holy crap, this is like a science. Like there's an algorithm for this.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't go that deep into it in my own like stuff, which I think is like, it'd be helpful if I did, but it's a lot of work that's kind of over my head.
Helpful, but yeah, it's definitely a commitment. It's another piece of the puzzle. And it was one I just, didn't, you have to kind of pick and choose when you're learning and starting out, what you're going to take on. So
totally.
But it's good. And there's actually a lot of courses on Udemy about SEO and how to do that. So they're there if people want to learn about it.
Yeah, you can. That's a good way to like learn about the Udemy marketplace, as well as learn about a skill that'll be helpful for marketing your class.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that you touched on something really interesting by saying that like the course that you put out that you thought was the best kind of got hidden amongst the other ones. And I think that that's like a great example of how if you have an idea of something that you think that you could teach somebody, you should kind of just roll with it, because you don't really necessarily know what's going to be a hit on Udemy and what's not going to be hit on Udemy.
Right. Well, some people would say that you can do some research. Like they have a list. Udemy releases a list of what they call hot topics. And those are topics that they're actively seeking courses in. So if you go there and you know enough about a course that you can put together something, that's definitely a smart way to approach it. My motivation was more, again, probably more personal. It's like, oh, well, I have this knowledge. I want to put it together in a course, and I'll put it on Udemy. So, but people who are more experienced, who are kind of doing it more as a business, will research the market and see what's out there and see what they need to do to get their course in front of people and what topics are worth pursuing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Mine's definitely been like much more personal as well. With my ideas of courses and that sort of thing, which is like not necessarily a bad thing either if you're going to use your own platform at some point.
I think it feels good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we don't have to like do everything to be millionaires. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but look at all that we learn from making courses, and all the skill set. So, like what I'm doing now, actually, it's funny because I had my coaching practice and then I kind of veered into making online courses. And now I'm putting the two together, and I'm in the process of creating like group coaching practices or programs where there's going to be lots of video with coaching. And now I know how to make videos, so I don't have to stress about that. That part is done. And I can just work on making good content, putting good packages together. So I kind of feel like this past year gave me so much, experience, and I got the skill set that now, I mean, video is only going to be more and more prevalent, just whatever we do, I just think it's going to be there. So to get that skill set is awesome. So yeah, jumping into something like Udemy where they're going to make you have a certain standard is a great way to learn how to do it.
Yeah, definitely. That's like such a good point, is like going into it. Like if you're interested in creating an online course, it's like going into it from the point of like, I'm going to learn a really cool skill. I'm going to share a skill with other people that I have, and not necessarily making it about getting rich off of this course, I think is a better way to go into it. Yeah.
I don't think approaching anything with a just to get rich is a good, unless you're buying a lottery ticket, but generally we need to feel something else, besides that motivation. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think
So,
that
I agree.
yeah, I love the idea of like doing things like kind of more from your heart and things that like make you feel excited and alive and doing that. I think that with an online course, sometimes if you're doing the first one and you're experiencing kind of those like technological frustrations like we were talking about earlier, it's easy to lose your why in there and kind of like allow your why to become about money. And then it can be disappointing if you don't make like $2,000 right off the get-go or whatever.
Yeah. It's like a measure of success. And so you have to be able to look at all that I got from this besides the dollar signs, you know, and I will add with, you know, my mind just kind of jumped to this too. There's also, you are reaching a lot of people that you wouldn't otherwise. Like I'm thinking when I put out my yoga course, even though I clearly say in it, this is for people who already know how to practice yoga. There's no yoga poses. I still get people who take the class thinking that they're going to learn poses. But, you know, I heard from people all over the world, in places where they're like, there are no yoga classes. We want to learn yoga and there's no yoga here. So because of your class and these yoga classes that are on Udemy, we're now able to do it. And that feels really good, you know, like, wow, you can really, you know, share this information with people all over the place. So, you know, so it's like, yeah, you're just serving a greater number of people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool to see students pop up from like all over the world and be like, wow, you're like in the Netherlands and you're listening to me teach you yoga. That's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're in the process of transferring your courses off Udemy.
Probably. I haven't made 100% decision, but since I'm moving more into, doing things on my own website, which is nothing's up yet. Everything's that I'm doing right now is behind the scenes, but I'm going to be working more on targeting specifically the people that, you know, just the people that I want to work with and who are ready to kind of learn what I'm offering and stuff. It's just, you can just be a little bit more targeted that way. Whereas Udemy, it's kind of like the wild, wild west. You know? Like anybody, yeah.
That's like
and
the
you have
perfect
to be
way to
prepared for
describe
that.
it.
Yeah. So like one of the things that people comment on are the reviews, because you'll get a lot of people taking a class on Udemy because the prices are so low. So they'll be like, oh, they'll just see yoga, for example, since we're talking about yoga. Oh, let me take this yoga. And then they get into the class and it's not what they want and they're angry and so they'll leave a low review. Whereas really they just weren't, you know, that's not the class for them. It's not the right match. So that can be frustrating for teachers who put so much work and heart into their courses. And then they're getting these reviews going and you realize that it's just, you know, it's not the right match. So that does happen. I will say that. So, you know, another good skill is you develop a thick skin for that. And you're just like, okay, well, you know, you learn to discern between genuine feedback. You know, some people can offer good feedback and you're like, oh, okay, this is a good way to improve what I'm teaching, or the ones who just aren't the right fit. So
yeah. It's always interesting with reviews. I mean, I don't have a ton of reviews on Udemy like that, but I've experienced that with like ebooks and things even the
same thing,
like the podcast. It's like, you know, somebody's listened to, especially my boyfriend and I's travel podcast, because it's a little bit bigger than MBOM is. But people are like, you know, they listen to one episode and you can tell from the review, and they're just like, they clearly didn't like something we said, and so they turn it off, they go to iTunes, they leave a 1-star review with something that's not even nice, and I'm like, well, you heard us say like one thing that you didn't like there's 160 episodes up there. There's probably something that you like about us.
Right. Yeah. Like with my yoga class, I had somebody leave a 1-star and he sent me a message. Basically, the gist of it was that he didn't agree with yoga being taught in the Western world. So I got the 1-star because of that feeling, you know, that was a sentiment. So it's kind of, you know, there's nothing you can do about that. You just have to kind of go, well, okay, let's just let that go. But yeah, it actually has given me a whole new appreciation for the review system. So many things now online are review based, and I understand why that is. But the problem is there can be a lot of, you know, confusion about where these reviews are coming from, you know, and if somebody's got like a huge family, they're going to have all these great reviews or, you know, whatever. So you have to it's taught me to be more discerning actually when I'm picking out courses or books or whatever it is online. I'm sort of going, okay, let me really look more carefully at the reviews here to see what this product is about. So
yeah, I usually try to be like that. Like if I'm looking at, like restaurants or like picking like hotels is a big one for me. Like there's certain things that I know that I look for in a hotel, and maybe that's like different from what somebody else is looking for. And so I try to like pick the reviews. Like if I read a review that somebody wrote about something that like it's not even something that I would be bothered by, then I kind of like disregard that even as a review. Right. And I think that it is good to be like, to read through, like comb through reviews, like not just take it as like, oh, this is 5-star, this is 4.5-star. Oh, this person gave it a 2-star. Like it's out of the question. Looking at what they're actually saying and where they're coming from and what their reasoning for it is, because you're totally right. People just leave reviews for all types of different reasons. Like you didn't really stand a chance with that guy. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You could have the greatest online course in the world and he would still probably have not left something nice. So,
yeah, exactly.
What have been some of your biggest learnings so far, as you've kind of like delved into the back end process of transferring courses to your own platform?
Well, again, this is still in its infancy because I haven't started to do it. I've just, I've been working more on, putting together some, coaching packages and doing that first. And, I'm going to be really hunkering down with Facebook ads in the next couple of weeks. So I'll have to share with you, some of my learnings from that. But
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, with the online courses, somewhere in there, I'm going to start, I'll probably transfer at least some of them onto my own website, whether I use a plugin, through WordPress or, one of these, sites like Thinkific or something. And, or putting together the packaging with, the coaching packaging. I don't know why that was so hard to say with video. So, but again, it's still in its infancy. So I can't speak a lot about the process. I will say though that it is a process. It's like something I learned from making the online classes is you just have to sit down and just get through it somehow. Like, there's no easy way. So I have little tricks. Like I do the Pomodoro. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have.
Management thing. Yeah, that's the only way I get the stuff done, really. I really started using it for online courses because some of it you're just like, oh, I don't want to sit here and mess around with this online stuff for 2 hours. But yeah, sometimes you just have to sit down and do it. So.
Yeah, no, my boyfriend uses that a ton and he finds it really helpful. I've used it a little bit, but I should do that when I'm like editing video because my passions definitely do not lie in any sort of video editing. And I feel good once it's done, but I don't enjoy it during the process.
It's so good when it's done. I know anybody listening is going to be like, this sounds terrible. We're never going to make an online course. We're sitting here commiserating about the process, but I will tell you, when you finish, especially each of these steps, oh my gosh, like you feel like a superhero. You're like, wow, I'm like a technological, like a genius, because I figure, of course you're not, but you just really feel like you've accomplished something, and you have, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, there were so many hurdles, like so many unexpected hurdles that I kind of got over through creating an online course. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to know about the reality of creating a course. And especially with Udemy, I feel like you hear a lot of these like really great success stories of people who do make a couple $1,000s in their first month. Yeah. And I think that that's definitely possible. But I think the reality is that you're probably not going to make that off the get-go.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And just like being realistic with yourself and coming from a place of like, I'm excited to put this out and whatever happens financially is, okay. I can learn some marketing. I can put it out there more. I can look at how to improve my course.
Exactly.
Coming from
you have to
that
keep
perspective.
The big picture, which is hard because you're going into a cave to do this stuff. So you have to somehow see all these things you have to do. You have to keep the big picture. And again, I'm glad I stayed with it because now a year later I can say, oh my gosh, now I can take this skill set and apply it to so many things. So it's, yeah. And even if you, like you've been doing, fun traveling in the interim. So you still have these skills from making your course that you can use at any time. So
yeah, definitely. And now I know that it's like, you know, like I still procrastinate putting videos together, but I know that I can do it. And I know that it's not that bad and it's not going to kill me. And I know all these things.
Right. You'll come out on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to have like death by iMovie or something like that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Although there have been times, but yeah. You wonder. Yeah.
Yeah. I think especially like if you come from a yoga background and like your specialty is like being in a room, interacting with people, sometimes it's like you hop on the computer and it can be really frustrating to like hunker down and try to create this thing. And I mean, there's people who can also create that stuff for you, but I think that learning those skills is just, I mean, we've talked about it so much, but I think it's such an amazing thing to have said you've done and to have learned to do.
Oh yeah, definitely. And a good tip that I learned early on was when you're talking to the video camera, you know, cause same thing, there's nobody you're interacting with. You're just staring at this little like light, you know. You have to imagine somebody on the other side, like a friendly face, or, you know, you have to imagine somebody there and that you're talking to that person. I actually know somebody who has somebody in the room with them. So, which I actually don't think I could do, because I think I would not be able to be serious. I'd be like laughing or whatever.
Yeah, same. I'd be giggling for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. My cat can stay in the room, and that's only because she makes too much noise otherwise. But other than that, it's just me and the camera. But yeah, learning to really feel like there's somebody on the other side of that camera, and that you're reaching people, and that even, you know, who knows how the online course is going to take off in terms of sales, but you're putting together something, you know, with heart, with something that's important to you. And that's all, it's all good. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Do you have anything else that you want to share with people about putting together online courses?
Do it. Just if you're remotely curious about it. If, you know, I hear people worried that, you know, stuff about, oh, well, I don't have a good speaking voice, or I don't look good on camera, or little things like that. All of that stuff is, you know, you can get past that. You can, there's, you know, if you really feel drawn to making an online course, just hop in there and do it. If Amanda and I can do it and come out on the other end and laugh like we are now, then I really believe that anyone can do it who is motivated to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's a great piece of advice. And where can people go to find out more about you and your online courses?
Well, right now, my site is intentionalcreative.com. And I'm going to be updating it in the next few weeks. So, but there's an email list on there too, that if people want to follow that. So it's intentionalcreative.com. And for the online courses, if you're curious to see what we were talking about, you know, just pop over to udemy.com, and you'll see Amanda's course and my courses as well. And a whole bunch of good stuff in there too.
Yeah, I'll put a link to your courses for sure so that people can go check them out. Because one of the other cool things about Udemy is that you can watch some of the videos for free.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's a great idea to get an idea of what people are doing, and then also to just check out a course before you buy it to see if it's something that interests you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Lauren. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. This was great fun chatting with you. Here you are in Bali. I'm in Savannah, Georgia. See, technology is a beautiful thing.
Technology is a beautiful thing. It just allows us to communicate all over the world.
I know. It's great.
All right. I know that episode was jam-packed with information, so I've taken some good thorough notes. You can get all of the resources listed up on the show notes at mbomyoga.com. You can also join the community on Facebook and Instagram at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And you can sign up for the newsletter via the website. There'll be a pop-up, and then there's also a newsletter tab. So if you want to get up-to-date information and be the first person to know about all things new and exciting with MBOM, you can sign up for that. You also get a couple of free little giveaways when you sign up, so that's always worthwhile, I think. And if you have questions about courses, definitely email me, info@mbomyoga.com. I've released 2. Lauren is definitely a couple of steps ahead of me. She's had a lot of success on Udemy with her courses, so you can definitely reach out to her as well at intentionalcreative.com. As always, thanks so much for listening, and namaste.